Hey everyone, Cosmos here from Dolly Games. In this video I want to talk a little bit about the new 5 new cuties of Wartune patch 8.6 and talk about their stats, their skills, and considering which one to pick or if to pick at all. So I'm also going to use my website as a reference for my blog as a reference for that. So I've posted already the what I call the QT profile. So the 5 spirits, worm, soul crusher, soul worm, and also I've posted the tables and charts with all the statistics. And in each of them I've gone over each QT, have given all their stats, their rankings, skills and judgments on how good they are in different situations, and the recommendation for each QT. So I'm not going to go into that. If you want to have that maximum detail, go to the blog, but I am going to click here on QT ranking graphs so we can have a quick look at them. So again, if you want to see the exact stats, go to the blog, but we're just gonna use the charts to see visually. So one quick thing for the cuties here, I'm just gonna quickly check the feed that it's done. So I have a bunch of them, not all of them I think. So I have the shield, I have the gun, soul worm, soul slasher, spirit worm. Okay, so I do have all of them, and each of them has is very specific to what they are sort of good at, but some of them are horrible. So first of all, we can check by attack rating and the modified attack rating. I'll use probably the modified calculation. And what was surprising is that the Spiragoth's shield has scored very high on this. His stats are actually very solid. So in terms of stats, he is very good. But if we go and look at his skills, he does the basic skill, and then he has the reflect, which is actually a stronger version of an existing QT, but let's not focus on that for now. The main reason for choosing him is his absorption shield. So I always give this comparison. If I go to my Titans, for example, and everybody is familiar with the Moon Guardian. So the Moon Guardian generates 40% shield on the whole party, and of course it does it only one time. But the QT here, Spiragoth's shield, with his skill ability, he can actually put that every 30 seconds, but of course not at the same strength, but half the strength, so 20% of max HP, but every 30 seconds. So I find that a very strong ability. Together with that, his stats are, so we have here, this is the attack, defense, health, and then I also have a sort of a total, let's say, also calculated ranking, where I use various aspects, giving attack a higher rating, but he scores really high. So in terms of stats, he's great. So I wanted to highlight him for a possible choice, but I find his uses limited on the downside, because if you want healing, then the Undead Gladiator actually does more healing, mostly for one reason, that this mass healing skill, it works every turn for 3 turns, so it's actually 3 times this. If it was only once, then one can consider the shield more, because the problem with the healing is it heals what you lost, whereas the shield is better in that sense. It adds more HP to you, let's say like that. If your health is full, the healing will not help, but the shield will still be beneficial. So but for now I think the healer will actually dish out more healing. However, he is still interesting for anybody who still is considering some kind of a team support role, especially because his stats are great. So with him set aside, I want to quickly talk about the two worms. Both of them are not really exciting. They are sort of hybrids. So this one does a bleed, but also has an AoE. So they're hybrids of two existing cuties, and because they're hybrids, they end up doing nothing. They end up as a bad choice, because they try to do a little bit of everything rather than being good at something. And this one is the goblin clubber equivalent. So clubber does damage, reduces attack. This one does damage, reduces attack. But the strange thing is that the debuff is even weaker than the clubber. So and he also has the AoE. So both of them have the AoE that the Sheena's Avenger has, but their stats are horrible. So Sheena, for example, is in the middle here, a little bit above average, but the worms are below. So the AoEs, they're already weak, 165% compared to even the basic attack, which is 240. So if you have a weak damage skill and on top of that your stats are horrible, that's gonna do, a lot less damage, let's say like that. So I don't see the point of the worms. I don't know if anybody likes them. If you do, please put your reasoning in the comments. Next we'll talk about the Soul Slasher. So he also has this AoE, but different from the worms, he is above average in stats. So let's scroll up and look at attack only. With attack only, he is above average, so his AoE will be significantly better than the same AoE done by the worms, who are like at the bottom together with the wolf. So that part is good. And then he has this strange skill which restores damage. So it's a healing, but it's an indirect healing. He allows the party for 3 turns to take back health up to 15% of their damage. I've always had a problem with that kind of healing, because when you are attacking something with a high defense, then you will not do too much damage, and then the 15% from a lower amount is going to be even a lower amount. So if somebody wants healing, then you'd go for the shield much better, or for the undead gladiator. So I really don't see the point of the 15% restoration based on damage. Together with that is this AoE. So really mixed, still a lot better than the worms, I can say that. But I just don't feel a good connection with this, with the Soul Slasher. I don't know why I would select him, so I cannot recommend him. Again, if somebody likes him, please put down in the comments your reasoning and why you would pick him. So that's 4 cuties out of the 5, and I left Gun of Spiragoth as the last one, because this one is now a special one, because he has this skill, Magic Spear, which increases damage for the entire party by 120%, which is a massive amount. It's a huge debuff. It's a huge buff, and it is for the whole party, including the player. That is, so if in QD only battles, of course the player is not there, but in like something like Demon Continent, the player is there. So increasing the player damage by up to 120% is pretty massive. But of course this is on the top level. When you start, I believe it'll be around 30%. I do have him. I started leveling him up, so let's check on the one that I have. He's now 2-star, level 49, and of course this one is not unlocked yet. So when you unlock it at level 1, it'll be at 30% damage increase, but I still find that even 30% is pretty good. So, and over time we'll be able to raise this to what the diagram says, up to 120. So I find him quite interesting for this specific skill that no other QD has at the moment. And so this one, you can use him. I still don't see him as a main cutie to use. I see him as a support, and only for this skill, because he has the basic attack and he has this second one, which is interesting as well. But I see the magic spear as the priority skill. So now let's talk a little bit about Fatal Toss. This is his stun. It's a little bit different from the stun of the Demon Eye. So the Demon Eye deals damage to a random enemy, 50% chance to do that stun for 2 turns. Compared to that, we have the Fatal Toss, which deals 165%, so less damage, has 50% chance to stun for 3 turns. So it is not the same stun. It is in one sense better, but this one has 25%, 25-second cooldown, while this one has 30-second cooldown. So you could argue that the 5 seconds makes a difference, and that would be a valid argument, because if you can cast it faster, if you take lag into consideration, you could one could cast every turn, whereas the other might not be able to. So the cooldown does matter. But that said, this one lasts for 3 turns, while the other one lasts for 2 turns. So if you want to go for stun, that's another reason as an advantage for the gun of Spiragoth. But again, for me, the primary skill is this one, the magic spear, increasing damage, especially for the player, by 120%. So I think everybody should have this as at least a support, a supportive one. So right now I'm using the Tauren Gladiator. He has been a very solid cutie for me, helping to kill all the bosses. The Undead Gladiator, of course, is dishing out all the healing. And I have the Tauren Elite that I had taken based on the analysis that I put on my blog, which is a bit lower. The other, you'd have to go to the previous QT profile, so Demon Eye, Tauren Gladiator, Lizard Elite. So read the Elite, why I chose him for his amnesia and other abilities, but also stats. And now I'm leveling up the gun of Spiragoth, so for that buff ability. And you don't even need to upgrade his accessories or anything like that. You just need that skill pretty much. So for that you need to get him to 3-star, so you'll need to feed him a little bit. But other than that, once he is 3-star, you probably don't even need to feed him at all. Because if he's used as a support for the player, then he will not have any life, so the stats won't matter. So he can just cast this skill, and that's it. And I think that's all I got for this. Like I said, if you want to read in detail, go to my blog at wartune.dollygames.com and check out the articles on the QT profiles or the table charts for the QT stats, attributes, and rankings for Wartune patch 8.6. Also, let me know which are your main QTs in the comments, and if you have taken any of the new 5 added QTs in Wartune patch 8.6, or you kept your old ones. For example, I saw one player had a good argument that he had above level 100 already on his existing ones, so he didn't want to switch for that reason. I think that's a pretty respectable reason. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please like, share with your friends so everybody can benefit. And for all the details, visit my blog at wartune.dollygames.com. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching and have a very nice day.